Welcome to today's comic review. We have a special one today, Mephisto versus the X Factor by Al Milgrom, 1987, the second issue in a four-part series that Marvel did. It's all about Mephisto, and given the MCU, he could play a pretty big part in the future, so let's get right into it. Title of this is Sympathy for the Devil, very appropriately named. As always, we're going to do a review, look at the story, look at the art, and do a collectability rank to kind of give you an idea of whether or not this is something you should have in your collection. And let's start off with the art. The art is pretty standard. I think it took a little bit of a dive from the first one. I think the first one was a little more crisp. This one have taken a little bit of a back to it. There's a little bit of rushed artwork, I think, in it. But overall, I think it's standard for the comics of its time, 1987. So we'll just move on with that. It's not bad, not great, just kind of middle of the road, but the story is pretty decent. So let's get into the story. Now, we start off with the story with Mephisto lamenting about him being misunderstood. Nobody understands him. And we go into the fact that even though Franklin once attacked him, he's got Sue Richards in custody from the previous episode, and we're looking at Sue just being a pawn for Mephisto's true objective. And he wants a soul, something like the Silver Surfer, something very noble and powerful. We don't know what his end objective is yet, but he's looking for something else. The capture of Sue Richards at the end of the first issue was not his end goal. So what we've got is then going over to the Fantastic Four. They got Mephisto's clue about this unknown quantity, related it to X Factor, a new series in the Marvel Universe currently. Is it a good tie-in? Maybe. I'm still kind of on the fence about that one. Maybe it's a little campy, but it's fun regardless. So we'll just say that, yeah, it ties into X Factor because of the clue, and we get the scene changing where you go over to the X Factor, they're working out, Reed Richards stops by and talks to X Factor, explains why he came over, why he didn't seek out Doctor Strange would be the normal reason that you would, somebody who was dealing with Mephisto, Doctor Strange would be perfect. And then an old man shows up. Now, X Factor at this time is trying to, under disguise of them being human, seek out and prevent these other mutant human atrocities and fights and try to prevent them and save mutants. But this old man shows up asking for help. He's Mephisto in disguise. He removes Reed Richards from the scene, and then X Factor goes and discovers that it's Sue Storm. She can't speak, so she can't explain to the crowd that's chasing her that she's not a mutant. But then they get into the warehouse. They save her from the mob, and Mephisto is lamenting again about his not being understood. And then he offers X Factor all of their biggest desires, much like the devil would do. And the only person who refuses this is Iceman. Iceman, basically Bobby Drake, he refuses this. He's not going to make a deal with the devil, where the others were kind of leaning into it, thinking about it. Mephisto retaliates. He gets rid of all of them except for Jean Grey. And as she's the last one standing, she agrees to go with Mephisto so that everyone else is freed and restored to their previous state, including Sue Richards, who would be freed as well. And then we end with the scene where we've got Jean Grey at Mephisto's feet, leading into, yeah, she's not the one he wants, but she's another piece in the puzzle, and we'll get into that in issue number 3. Now let's get into collectability. Is this issue a collectible issue? I would say that issue number 1 is probably the more collectible issue of the sets, only because the Fantastic Four is definitely going to be in the MCU very soon. Mephisto may make an appearance, so I think that issue number 1 is the most likely. Issue number 2 and 3 probably somewhat, but the thing is, they're all cheap right now. These comics can be had for cover price. Not going to spend a lot of money on it. So just picking it up to have in your collection is a good idea. Get them out of the dollar bins. I think something may happen to them eventually. I don't think you'll lose your money on it. So with them being so cheap, so go ahead and pick them up, especially if you can find them in the dollar bins. I think that's a good buy. All right, as always, thank you. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and we'll get to issue number 3 very soon.